So now let's start our panel discussions. So since we do not have much time, but if time allow, participants would have opportunity to ask a question as well. So first of all, I would like to start with the discussion with Dr. Rajesh. You've been discussing on several issues and opportunity basically in the labor market in ASEAN that you touch on supplies, chance, technology, sustainability, green transition. So in your view, how can ASEAN country effectively manage the employment transitions, basically worker moving from declining sectors to the emerging sectors? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I guess, so I would probably highlight a few priority things that needs to be done. First one is to sort of identify the new growth areas. So what are the opportunities that are arising because of the mega trends that I mentioned? For example, in terms of sustainability transition, the green jobs are quite important, right? And there's opportunities to have for new economic activity to be created as a part of the sustainability transition. And the question is, what are those activities that, let's say, Cambodia could capture, or some other ASEAN country, any ASEAN country, which requires us to basically understand sort of where the comparative advantages of each country is, right? So partly it's about comparative advantage. So Cambodia, for example, has a lot of experience within the textiles garment industry. And there is the opportunity to move, let's say, to the more circular economy principles by looking at the small, I guess, the more sustainable fibers, uses of more sustainable fibers, production of more sustainable fibers, and the other side of recycling, upcycling the discarded garment products. So both are sort of a slight move away from the existing competitive advantage of Cambodia, which is the core production of garments. But that's where the opportunities are. So given the current comparative advantages, what are the new sectors or areas that the country's activities could move from that have a more long-term potential in terms of economic activity? So we need to focus on that. Then we need to develop policies that would support that kind of transition, right? And so in the service policies, we need the sort of industrial development policies. We also need the labor policies and human capital policies. And this is where I guess I'd like to emphasize the importance of skill development. And as Chandra also mentioned, once you identify the sectors where there's a potential for economic activity, we need to then ensure that there's skill development policies, suitable policies up in place in terms of developing skills for the workers. And then I guess the other one is in terms of digitalization, so adopting the digital technology to ensure that workers are equipped to be able to use digital tools to enhance the productivity so that they can then contribute better to the economic activities. I think that would also be important in terms of technological, to take advantage of the technological changes that are happening. And there as well, I think having the right kind of interventions, for example, early interventions to ensure that there's a digital inclusion and the digital skills gaps are narrowed. So those are some of those things that needs to be also focused on, I think, in terms of some low-hanging fruits of how to take advantage of the current trends. Yeah. So.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rashas. អញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំសូមបកត្រឡប់ទៅប្រើជាភាសាខ្មែរវិញក្នុងនោះដែរតកតងជាមួយនឹងអត្ថបទឬក៏ការបទបង្ហាញរបស់ Dr. Rashas ក៏ដូចជាការបកស្រាយនៅសំណួរមិញខ្ញុំសូមជម្រាបសួរសំណួរបន្ទាប់ទៅអាដាមគុណសុខមានបាទអាដាមតកតងជាមួយនឹងចំណុចនេះដែរដោយសារតែអាដាមបានធ្វើការនៅក្នុងវិស័យការងារនេះជាច្រើនឆ្នាំហើយមានបទពិសោធន៍តាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងទីផ្សារការដោះស្រាយបញ្ហាទីផ្សារការងារក៏ដូចជាការអភិវឌ្ឍនៅវិស័យសេវា employment ជាដើមការងារជាដើមអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំអាចសុំសួរថាភ្ជាប់ជាមួយនឹងចម្លើយរបស់ Dr. Rashas តើកម្ពុជាអាចពង្រឹងអភិបាលកិច្ចទីផ្សារការងារនិងការអប់រំការបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលបែបណាដើម្បីធានាថាការផ្គត់ផ្គង់កម្លាំងពលកម្មដែលមានតម្រូវការទៅតាមទីផ្សារការងារក៏ដូចជាតម្រូវការជំនាញនៅពេលអនាគតបាទសូមអរគុណអាដាមបាទ
បាទសូមអរគុណដុកទ័រមនោអាដាមដុកទ័រមនោដែលបាន សួរនៅសំណួរនេះដែលមានសារៈសំខាន់ហើយអរគុណសម្រាប់ Dr. Sandre ហើយនិង Rasha ដែលបានចែករំលែកនៅព័ត៌មានមួយចំនួនហើយនឹងជា mega trend មួយចំនួនដែលនៅកើតឡើងមាននៅក្នុងតំបន់អាស៊ានព្រមទាំងបានរំលេចនៅជាបញ្ហាមួយចំនួនប៉ុន្តែប្រសិនបើយើងមុននឹងឆ្លើយសំណួរយើង reflect អំពីអ្វីទៅគឺជា challenge ដែលនៅទីនេះខ្ញុំជឿថាសម្រាប់ប្រទេសកម្ពុជាក៏មិនខុសពីអ្វីដែលDr. Rasha បានបង្ហាញអំពី mega trend មួយចំនួនដែលបាន emerge ហើយនឹង impact ទៅលើ labor market ដែលទីមួយនោះគឺយើងបានឃើញហើយគឺជាមួយនឹង demographic គឺតើតើជាមួយនឹងកត្តាប្រជាសាស្ត្រដែលជួយតែបញ្ហានេះគឺវាធ្វើឲ្យមានការកើនឡើងជាមួយនឹងចំនួនអ្នកដែលគាត់ស្ថិតនៅក្នុងវ័យធ្វើការដែលគាត់មានតម្រូវការនៃការងារច្រើនទន្ទឹមនឹងនោះមុននឹងឈានទៅដល់តម្រូវការនៃការងារគឺគាត់ត្រូវឈាននៅតម្រូវការនៃការទទួលបាននៃការអប់រំហើយប៉ុន្តែបើសិនបើយើងមើលទៅតាមអ្វីដែលជាបញ្ហាដែលកើតឡើងនៅក្នុង structure នៃការដែលយើង supply ត្រឡប់ទៅវិញជាមួយតម្រូវការនៃការអប់រំយើងឃើញថាបន្ទាប់ពីសង្គ្រាមហេដ្ឋារចនាសម្ព័ន្ធមួយចំនួនត្រូវបានបំផ្លាញហើយអ្វីដែលជាលទ្ធផលក៏បានបង្ហាញនៅក្នុងslide របស់ Dr. Sandre ដែរគឺមានន័យថាមានប្រជាជនយើងជាច្រើនគឺគាត់ស្ថិតនៅក្នុងការទទួលបានការអប់រំនោះគឺនៅក្រោមកម្រិតត្រឹមតែថ្នាក់បឋមសិក្សាដែលទាំងអស់នេះវានឹងអាច pose ជា problem មួយតាក់ទងជាមួយទៅនឹងអ្វីដែលគាត់បានលើកឡើងតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹង skill trap ហើយទន្ទឹមជាមួយទៅនឹងកត្តាប្រជាសាស្ត្រក៏វាកត្តាប្រជាសាស្ត្រនេះជាតិសោតក៏វាមិនមែនមានតែកើតឡើងនៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាយើងដែរគឺប្រទេសនៅក្នុងអាស៊ានយើងគឺមានការ transition នៃ demographic ផ្សេងៗគ្នាតែនៅក្នុងប្រទេសមួយចំនួនដូចជាប្រទេសកម្ពុជាប្រទេសឡាវប្រទេសវៀតណាមអីគឺមាន surplus of labor ច្រើនមានថានៅ surplus នៅក្នុងនេះមានន័យថាយើង have young population ច្រើនចំណែកឯបណ្ដាប្រទេសដែលជាប្រទេសអាស៊ានផ្សេងទៀតក៏គាត់មានការថយចុះនៃអ្នកដែលគាត់ជាកម្លាំងពលកម្មវ័យក្មេងតែធ្វើនោះវាធ្វើឲ្យមានបញ្ហាមួយគឺកើតឡើងអំពី dynamic តាក់ទងជាមួយនឹង migration នៅក្នុងតំបន់របស់យើងផងដែរដែលនេះក៏ជាផ្នែកមួយនៃ labor market ដែលយើងត្រូវដោះស្រាយដែរហើយដូច្នេះហើយកត្តា demographic គឺជាកត្តាមួយសំខាន់ដែលយើងត្រូវគឺការគិតគូរទី2ការបម្រែបម្រួលនៃរចនាសម្ព័ន្ធសេដ្ឋកិច្ចដែលយើងបានឃើញតាមរយៈនៃគឺការបង្ហាញការធ្វើជាការពីបដកម្មទៅកាន់វិស័យឧស្សាហកម្មហើយនឹងការធ្វើបដកម្មទៅវិស័យសេវាកម្មកាន់តែស៊ីជម្រៅវាធ្វើបង្កើតឲ្យមានជាតម្រូវការនៃជំនាញថ្មីឲ្យកើតឡើងលឿនជាងអ្វីជាការពុតគង់នៃជំនាញនៅលើទីផ្សារដែលកត្តានេះគឺ Dr. Sandre ក៏បានលើកឡើងអំពីបញ្ហាតាក់ទងជាមួយទៅនឹង skill shortage ដែរហើយ of course មាននិន្នាការមួយចំនួនទៀតដែលតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹង technology ជាមួយទៅនឹង platform economy ដែលវាឃើញថានៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាក៏មានបញ្ហាតាក់ទងនឹង new form នេះផងដែរដែលយើងត្រូវទាមទារឲ្យមានការរៀបចំជាមួយទៅនឹង regulation ថ្មីដើម្បីធានាថាលក្ខខណ្ឌការងារហើយនឹងអត្ថប្រយោជន៍របស់គាត់ត្រូវបានធានាទន្ទឹមនឹងនេះក៏មានបញ្ហាបន្ថែមទៀតគឺតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹង informality ផងដែរតែឃើញថាបានបង្ហាញ capture នៅក្នុង labor force survey ដែរឃើញថាប្រជាជនយើងភាគច្រើនគឺអ្នកដែលមានការងារភាគច្រើននៅក្នុង formal informal employment ដែលជាបញ្ហានៅក្នុងការយើងជួយគាត់ក្នុងការ mobilize នៅក្នុង formal sector វិញហើយដូច្នេះហើយជារួមតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងបញ្ហានេះគឺជាបញ្ហាដែលតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងនៃ structure ហើយនឹងវត្តនៃទីផ្សារការងារប៉ុន្តែ at the same time ក៏យើងមានបញ្ហាតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងលំហូរនៃការទទួលបាននៅព័ត៌មានផងដែររវាងកម្មកររវាងអ្នកដែលគាត់ជាអ្នកស្វែងរកការងារជាមួយទៅនឹងអ្វីដែលជាអ្នកដែលគាត់ផ្ដល់ការងារគឺជាច្រើនគឺនៅក្នុង sector ដែលគាត់ emerge មកថ្មីគាត់មានតម្រូវការចំណែកអ្នកដែលគាត់នៅក្នុង sector ដែលយើងឃើញនៅទីនេះគឺការចេញពីអ្នកដែលគាត់ស្ថិតនៅក្នុងវិស័យកសិកម្មតែចេញពីវិស័យនេះទៅរកការងារថ្មីនៅក្នុងវិស័យឧស្សាហកម្មជាដើមតែនេះវាត្រូវការទាមទារឲ្យមានសេវាមួយក្នុងការ facilitate គាត់ប៉ុន្តែសេវាទាំងអស់នេះចំពោះប្រទេសកម្ពុជាយើងក៏ទាមទារឲ្យមានការជំរុញបន្ថែមដែរហើយនេះជារួមខ្ញុំជឿថានេះគឺជាបញ្ហារួមនៃទីផ្សារការងារចំណែកឯជាបញ្ហាជាដំណោះស្រាយខ្ញុំជឿថាយើងមិនអាចគិតអំពីបញ្ហានេះតែឯងតាក់ទងទៅជាមួយនឹងកត្តាជាមួយនឹង skill development ទេដោយ Professor Sandre ក៏បានលើកឡើងអញ្ចឹងមានន័យថាជាទូទៅ labor market policy គឺតាមពីក្រោយតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹង economic policy ឬមួយក៏ជា industry policy ហើយក្នុងន័យនេះក្រសួងសេដ្ឋកិច្ចនិងហិរញ្ញវត្ថុក៏បាន take lead នៅក្នុងការកំណត់ជាមួយនឹង new source of economic growth ដែល new source of economic growth នឹងធ្វើការ map back ទៅនឹង skill ទៅនឹង sector ដែលនឹងអាច emerge ឡើងហើយដូច្នេះហើយទូនាទីរបស់ក្រសួង ការងារនឹងបដិបដាវិជ្ជាជីវៈយើងត្រូវតែធ្វើយ៉ាងម៉េចធ្វើការឲ្យបានដិតដល់មួយក៏តាំងពីដំបូងជាមួយទៅនឹងក្រសួងដើម្បីយើងអាចធ្វើការបន្តពីនេះក្នុងការ map ពី sector ដែលនឹងអាច emerge ជាមួយទៅនឹងskill level ជាតម្រូវការនៃជំនាញប៉ុន្តែអ្វីដែលយើងនិយាយនៅនេះវាដូចជាហាក់ភាពដូចងាយស្រួលចឹងគ្រាន់តែ merge ប៉ុន្តែពេលខ្លះនៃការធ្វើវាជាបញ្ហាប្រឈមមួយហើយនឹងទៅទីនេះយើងទទួលស្គាល់ថាក្រសួងគឺយើងដឹងថាកត្តានេះសំខាន់ប៉ុន្តែគ្រាន់តែបញ្ហាប្រឈមគឺតាក់ទងជាមួយទៅនឹងបច្ចេកទេសនិងសមត្ថភាពក្នុងស្ថាប័ននៅក្នុងការយើងអាច capture នៅត្រង់ចំណុចនេះប៉ុន្តែវាមានបញ្ហាមួយដែលយើងលើសពីបន្ថែមពីលើនឹងទៀតគឺក្នុងការដែលយើង merge skill ហ្នឹងទៅជា training package ហ្នឹងគឺជារឿងមួយកម្រិតមួយតង់ទៀតដើម្បីយើងអាចយកជំនាញនេះយកទៅបរិញ្ញាបានលឿននៅកម្រិត institution ហើយ link ជាមួយនឹង industry ផងដែរតែនេះគឺជាបញ្ហាមួយដែលកន្លងមកក៏បានសូមអរគុណទៅខាងដៃគូអភិវឌ្ឍដែលមាននៅក្នុងនេះមានដូចជា ILO ADB RFD ដែលបានចូលរួមចំណែកជាច្រើននៅក្នុង different skill different project នៅក្នុងការ build capacity ទាំង hard ទាំង soft នៅក្នុងការដែលយើង capture ទៅក្នុងនេះហើយសម្រាប់ក្រសួងការងារសម្រាប់នៅក្នុង mandate ថ្មីនេះស្របជាមួយទៅនឹងយុទ្ធសាស្ត្របញ្ចកោណគឺយើងបានដាក់ចេញនៅផែនការយុទ្ធសាស្ត្រអភិវឌ្ឍនៅវិស័យការងារសន្តិសុខសង្គមនិងបដិបដាវិជ្ជាជីវៈដែលនៅក្នុងនោះយើងធ្វើការ connect នៅក្នុងគោលនយោបាយជាយុទ្ធសាស្ត្ររបស់យើងហ្នឹងជា cycle តែម្ដងមានន័យថាគឺជាការគិតគូរដំបូងពីការបង្កើតការងាររហូតជាការអភិវឌ្ឍជំនាញការធានាបាននៅការងារមួយដែលមានលក្ខខណ្ឌការងារល្អនិងមានសុខដុមរមនានៃវិជ្ជាជីវៈព្រមទាំងការគិតគូរទៅដល់អ្នកដែលគាត់ស្ថិតនៅក្នុងធ្វើការនៅក្រៅប្រទេសព្រមទាំងការធានាឲ្យបាននៅការថែទាំនៅរបបសន្តិសុខសង្គមតែនេះគឺជាយុទ្ធសាស្ត្រទាំង5របស់ក្រសួងតែស្ថិតនៅក្នុងនោះយើងមានយុទ្ធសាស្ត្រ support មួយគឺតាក់ទងការ embrace ទៅដល់ technology អីជាដើមដើម្បីយើងធ្វើទាំងម៉េចធានាថាការផ្ដល់សេវាការអន្តរាគមន៍របស់យើងគឺអាចមានប្រសិទ្ធភាពហើយយើងអាចមានលទ្ធភាពនៅក្នុងការ mobilizing resource មួយចំនួនដើម្បីទៅជួយអ្នកដែលគាត់ត្រូវការជំនាញទៅការពិតប្រាកដហើយនៅក្នុងឆ្នាំនេះផងដែរនៅក្នុងពិព័រណ៍ការងារយើងបាន launch នៅសេវាមួយដែលជាខ្ញុំជឿថានៅប្រទេសផ្សេងៗគេមានការចាប់ផ្ដើមប៉ុន្តែប្រទេសយើងគឺយើងចាប់ប្រើប្រាស់នៅជា chaos មួយដែលជា public service របស់ក្រសួងដែលអាចអនុញ្ញាតឲ្យប្រជាពលរដ្ឋនៅក្នុងការចុះឈ្មោះស្វែងរកការងារធ្វើក្នុងការ search រក employment ព្រមទាំង employer គាត់អាច post នៅ vacancy របស់គាត់នៅក្នុងនេះផងដែរនេះគឺជាឧទាហរណ៍មួយនៃការដែលក្រសួងយើងបានដាក់ចេញដើម្បីយើងថាម៉េចដើម្បីពង្រីកនៃការផ្ដល់សេវារបស់យើងខិតចិត្តទៅប្រជាពលរដ្ឋបាទសូមអរគុណ
បាទសូមអរគុណសម្រាប់ការបកស្រាយដ៏ក្បោះក្បាយរបស់អាដាមបាទអញ្ចឹងសំណួរសម្រាប់សំណួរចុងក្រោយមួយទៀតសម្រាប់ Professor Sandre ខ្ញុំសូមបកទៅប្រើប្រាស់ជាភាសាអង់គ្លេសវិញបាទ Thank you so much for your presentation, Professor. It's very essential and you have delivered an important message on the corrective instructions, skill gap, skill trap, Levis turning point, especially on the LDC graduations. So, Professor, so could you provide us how can Cambodian and other ASEAN countries leverage the technologies and innovations to enhance the labor productivities and competitiveness in the context of LDC graduation? And linked to that, how can Cambodian mitigate the negative impact of the LDC graduation? Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. It's a very good question and a very difficult question to answer. So, firstly, ASEAN is not going to help in Cambodia LDC graduation because all other countries will have to go through this graduation itself. But having said that, there are some common grounds that are that's already set up for Cambodia to actually elevate to the next level. One is multilateral free trade agreement like RCEP. So fairly we need to embrace a multilateral agreement like RCEP that sets a larger, bigger boundary for us. And fairly we need to start mapping and use you see, the LDC graduation is not a bad thing. It is a good opportunity for us to transform ourselves to the next stage. The question is, what is the next stage? That is the 50 products or whatever that we identify. But even more important is the other element that's going to hit us very heavily is what you call the ESG. The environmental, social, and corporate governance dimension will hit us. And Cambodia is already in the COP agreement for net zero agreement. That by 2050, we want to move those industries into that. So what technology am I going to adopt? The higher the frontier, the better it is. It will be green. It will be clean. Why? The EU regulation under CBAM requires all the GVC to be clean. And not only clean, but also green. So clean doesn't mean it's green. So you also need to be green. So they're setting up that agenda. So fairly, ASEAN taxonomy requires us under the ESG framework to all the ASEAN members to come into that framework. That's where we're going to push the frontier too. So fairly, the technology, a lot of behind border issues we need to address. ASEAN is not going to help us with the skills trap. Skills trap is behind border issue. That means domestic industry, domestic institutions need to reform. And that the reform that you undertake must move us to the next dimension. That means our institutions must be forward-looking institutions. What are forward-looking institutions? Looking ahead, what products I'm going to capture. Facilitate businesses. Allow private sector to get more involved in this change, transformation you're trying to do. Create that platform. And honestly, other ASEAN members are doing it faster. Take Vietnam, for example. Vietnam already have an FTA with EU. So this double transformation, green transformation, they are already there. They just need to upgrade the FTAs. So fairly under RCEP, this green transformation is going to hit us again. With the recent RCEP support unit, it's a living agreement. One of the big agenda they have is skills, and the green will be the biggest agenda they're going to have. Trying to mobilize all the 15 members to come into some common ground and push the green agenda, because ASEAN's trade is still quite heavy with the European Union. So fairly getting a European Union FTA is also very important for ASEAN. So from the skills development framework, the third pillar under capacity development will come under FTA to help member countries to leverage their skill set up. So fairly ASEAN need a more, like what Dr. Rashesh mentioned, ASEAN level accreditation mechanism. Accreditation means we go to ASEAN level certification that allows us to move. So now we only have a mutual recognition agreement that allow professional bodies to certify the respective ASEAN member countries. Fairly, we need to unify in terms of the pillars, different skill set pillars at the ASEAN level accreditation. That accreditation means we can set a higher agenda for ASEAN members to actually have workers certified. So we know that certification allows us to move horizontally and vertically in the value chain faster. So there are many things ASEAN need to do. And this human capital and skills development is one of the important agenda ASEAN Secretariat under new emerging issues adopting. And we need to see the AEC 2045 vision and 2050 vision, how much a skills development and narrowing the skills development gap will be. That will be announced under the Malaysian chairmanship.
Professor, so now បាទជាបន្តទៀតខ្ញុំសូមដោយសារយើងមានពេលវេលាកំណត់ដែរខ្ញុំសូមអនុញ្ញាតថាទទួលទៅ2សំណួរទេមកពីខាងអ្នកចូលរួមបាទសូមអរគុណបាទប្រសិនបើអ្នកចូលរួមគាត់មានសំណួរបាទសូមអញ្ជើញបាទសូមណែនាំខ្លួនហើយបាទមានមីក្រូហ្វូន
First of all, thank you very much all the speakers and also moderator for very excellent presentation and also your view on the labor economics. I would like to have 3 points that I would like to get your views. One is about, about the trends for the Asia, especially in Cambodia. You have talked a lot, about the economic growth, about employment, so on and so forth. But what is your view in terms of increasing inequalities, in the ASEAN as well in Cambodia? Number one. Number two, here we see about the global warming, about the climate change. And if you talk about this, what I foresee in the near and also the long terms, you will see a lot of the consequence or the impact of the climate change on employment, on economic growth. So what you foresee about this? Number two. Number three, about the conflicts. Work globally, also regionally, we see that the conflict has caused a lot of consequence on impacts, including on economic growth, on employment, so on so so. So what is your view on this, including in ASEAN as well? Thank you very much. Sorry, please name I'm Kluon. My name is Ruva. I'm a Senior National Program Manager for Inclusive Economic Development at the Swiss Cooperation Office in Cambodia. Thank you.
បាទសូមអរគុណតែមើលសំណួរទៅប៉ុន្តែនេះ3សំណួរបាទអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំប្រហែលជាអាចសូម start ពីសំណួរទី1ទៅ Dr. Rajas បាទសូមអញ្ជើញ Dr. Rajas please
Thank you very much for the question. I think yeah, all of those are quite crucial. I think I would focus most on the first question, which is on the inequality part, and that's a quite important challenge for all ASEAN countries, especially as I mentioned before. The skills gap is going to be an important, or skills is going to be an important factor in the future of work, and because of automation and technological changes, a lot of the low-skill jobs are going to be substituted by technology. So the employment opportunities or what kind of employment opportunities are created in the future is going to be quite different than what it was in the past. And so for Cambodia's case, for example, because the jobs were created were in the production line in the factories, people could move directly from agriculture and take advantage of the employment opportunities in the factories, in the garment factories, especially women. And that helps sort of to increase the wages and sort of income levels of many households. However, that step requires an additional step of skill acquisition in the future, because a lot of jobs created would actually require a higher level of skills. So that additional step of skills, of gathering skills or gaining skills, will then determine to what extent the new opportunities can be taken advantage of by as many people as possible. And if the systems are not in place, if the institutions that develop the skills, like the skill ecosystem, is not in place or is not working properly, then that can increase inequality, because then we can have some people who are able to take advantage of the opportunities that arise in the future because of the global mega trends, while there will be a lot of people who are not able to take advantage of the opportunities and would have to move into informal sectors where the level of income and the earning capacity would be quite small. And therefore, I think that the chances that the future economic opportunities could lead to greater inequality is there. And therefore, addressing those does require skill development as being a top priority for ASEAN countries, including Cambodia. I guess, yeah, that's what I would like to address. But maybe if the other points could be addressed by, yeah.
Thank you. So you have 3 questions, very good questions. One is inequality, second one is environment, and third one is a strategic dimension that's appearing. So let me start with the first one. The first one is inequality. Inequality is not something just for Cambodia. ASEAN itself, most countries are facing the inequality. So fairly, we are adopting 2 kind of strategies. Let's say I take Singapore, for example, which I've done quite a bit of work, and other ASEAN member countries. So the first one is a skills gap. So we realize for manage a skills gap is also wage inequality. Skills gap will lead to wage gap. The skill, wages rise, and the unskilled, semi-skilled stagnate. And when that happens, the inequality widens. So how to manage the skills gap and the wage gap, driven by the skills gap? So one is to move away from a demand-driven model to a future skills model. empowering everyone to actually acquire and create a portfolio of skills. So in Singapore, everybody have individual learning skills, and we create a portfolio. You choose, and they facilitate you to from being training and even supporting you to go to the university. That system is very similar to Korea and Finland. In Finland, again, they have a very high human capital dimension. It's because they allow for skills future development. That is also part of our discussion, how to create the future skills. But that is only a small segment for Cambodia. The right-hand side of the segment, you don't need to worry. They are middle income, and they have enough funds to actually do whatever skills they want. The lower part of the distribution is where the heavy part is. And this is also apparent in most countries, ASEAN member countries. For Singapore's case, we adopted a progressive wage. So progressive wage is where the government comes and intervene and identify your skill set that need you to upgrade. Together with regulation, then when I upgrade and I give you certification, businesses need to give you the higher wage. And I lift people out of the minimum wage into a progressive wage. I identify which are the skill set, which are the skills I need, and which are the skill set that are vulnerable, and start lifting them up. That's progressive wage. So we have two. One is progressive, the other one is skilled, and they need to complement. The closer I bring them together with the technological change I manage, I cannot overlap, I only can manage. If I can narrow, I'm already in a better position. So there are policies induced that we need to look at and start mapping to Cambodia. Again, that's part of the discussion with the Ministry of Labour and Vocational Training. Second one, environment. The way the environmental issues are hitting us is not through the COP and so on. It's through what you call the ESG framework. Economic, social, environmental, social, and corporate governance is where the government is pushing businesses to adopt best environmental practices. There's a sustainability report in Singapore. Every listed company have to report. And they're given a sustainability index, a score. And they track this score. And to be a listed company, you need to submit the sustainability report. Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and Philippines is three countries already adopted and it's compulsory by law. The other member countries will adopt. So the ESG framework requires, under even ASEAN taxonomy is not compulsory. ASEAN green ESG taxonomy is only set up the framework. But some countries are adopting it and the taxonomy will become very strong, which means the supply chain must be clean and green. So the scores you get will need to acquire your downstream intermediate inputs need to be green. So structural transformation is already taking place. So for Cambodia, we need to include this taxonomy very fast. And I heard that we're already working on that taxonomy because we already agreed to be a COP, net zero by 2050. So I think Cambodia will be able to adopt this even faster than other members because we are more lateral and horizontal, will be important for LDC graduation. The last one is strategic alliance. The issue of strategic alliance is different from Biden and from Trump. Trump's strategic alliance is not strategic itself. He wanted a market-based transformation. So what he started was a US-China trade war. Still market-based, and we can see the market-based transaction, and all ASEAN members in East Asia is able to understand the transaction. And from a rule base, we know what are the industries to decouple and what are the trade diversion, trade creation. Strategic alliance that Biden started with Indo-Pacific Economic Framework has a lot of gray area. Because they want a gray area to control bilateral discussions. In Trump, it's much more clear. So when now Trump is coming back, fairly we know what are the game Trump is going to play. You don't believe me? The stock market jumped 400 points the day he was elected, which shows that the strategic alliance is going to go down and market-based rules will come up. So a lot of businesses are reacting positively to that. And ASEAN is driven only by market-based, rule-based policy. We don't like to get involved in strategic alliances. That's what we call ASEAN way. ASEAN way of political economy is very mellow, but we go on economic cooperation, investment cooperation, and market-based policy. So when market comes up, fairly strategic alliance will go down. So we are still waiting for Trump to come in, and keep in mind, he's going to reform His efficiency department under Elon Musk and Ramasamy is going to reform and create one, they're going to cut the trillions of dollars. They're going to reduce the government. The only way they're going to do that, reduce regulation. They have to move to market base. So that's why the strategic alliance is going to hit us is good for us.
So thank you so much, Professor, and thank you, Dr. Rashas. I think it's time now. It's almost 12:30. I think I don't want to keep you long. So allow me to conclude these sessions. So once again, thank you, His Excellency, Professor Sandre and Dr. Rashas. So we have been touching on important issues basically in ASEAN and Cambodia in terms of key challenges and opportunities, especially in the lens of LDC graduations. And we acknowledge the important impact of technology, climate change, demographic shift, and also the green transition. So it is very important and provide a valuable guidance for policymakers to navigate a path for economic resilience and inclusive development. So I would like to conclude this session now. Thank you.
ចាសសូមអរគុណចំពោះវាគ្មិនទាំង3រូបក៏ដូចជាអាយដាមដែលបានធ្វើការធ្វើបទបង្ហាញនៅក្នុងវគ្គទី1នេះជូនសម្រាប់ភ្ញៀវទាំងអស់គ្នាដែលបានមានវត្តមាននៅទីនេះចាសសូមជូនពរជួបតែសុខភាពល្អនិងជោគជ័យគ្រប់ភារកិច្ចការងារ